Hello, hello. So this morning I'm gonna keep it even shorter than last time. Hopefully, let's see how it goes. So, same format. I'm gonna riff on an idea live. This morning's idea is debunking the old excuse of I'm not good with words, so I can't continue this conversation. Did you ever get into a situation where you were having an argument with a person? Well, let's say that's a debate, which is a civilized discussion, not an argument, but you were arguing a point and the other person was arguing their point, an opposing point, different ideas. The other party said something along the lines of, I just wish I could explain my ideas better, but you see, I'm no good at debating, and I just can't find the right words right now. You see, I need to go and think on this some more and find the right way to explain this to you. This is one of my pet peeves because it's a cop out. In reality, what they're saying is, I don't want to continue this discussion, but I will not take the responsibility of ending it. I'm going to pretend as if I do want to continue it, but I'm going to make it about a trait that I'm missing rather than about choices I'm unwilling to make. Because you cannot blame me for traits or lack thereof, in this case, of being able to express myself fluently and argue my point in a debate. That is a trait. You either have it or you don't. You are a good public speaker or you're not. Who can blame somebody else for not being a good debater, right? Do you see how this works? So that leaves them blameless, weak but blameless. With lack of responsibility comes lack of power. With lack of power comes lack of responsibility. It's the endless cycle between power and responsibility. But that's another subject to explore. Can't wait for that one, honestly. That's more core to my philosophies. But what they're doing essentially is they're shifting responsibility from themselves, from their choice to not continue an uncomfortable conversation, probably something that they sense might lead them to a painful truth. See one of my previous episodes. They want to avoid that. When they sense they're coming close to a painful truth, they make the choice of not continuing, which, again, it would be fine, it's their choice, if at least they would admit it. But the simple fact of admitting it would make it unbearable to choose as an option, which is why they don't want to admit it. So, what they do then is they take refuge in the idea that it's not a choice they're making, it's an ability they're lacking. And it doesn't even make sense if you look at it closely. So, what they're saying is, I'm lacking this ability, so I'm going to stop the conversation, go presumably develop that ability further up to the point where it will be good enough for me to continue this debate with you. And then I'm going to come back. Presumably, they'll, I don't know, call you up and set up a meeting to, this is ridiculous on its face. They're not going to do that. Nobody, how many times, if you're in the habit of having these types of difficult but very rewarding and healthy conversations and debates with people, how many times did you find someone who, when faced with an uncomfortable position, the discussion stopped for whatever reason? You met somebody on a train, you started a conversation, maybe a debate, and they had to get off the train, I mean, just as they were about to be cornered and had to admit that your argument was the right one. and theirs was wrong. And they called you up afterwards and you said, "Hey, we're going to continue this. I'm so loving this conversation. I'm so appreciative of this debate, even if I'm on the losing side, let's say, or have the weaker argument, because I don't think there's a losing side in debates. We both win. If I'm about to lose a debate with somebody, I consider myself the luckier one out of the two, because let's look at what I've gained. So I basically had the privilege of someone coming in and adjusting my subjective perception of reality to be closer to objective reality. That is an invaluable service because that's what they did. By having debate with me and by proving me wrong, that's what they did. So they did me an immense service. That's why I always welcome criticism. And anybody should who's looking to improve their perception of reality. But back to the main subject. People don't usually rekindle debates, conversations they felt uncomfortable in. But assuming that it would happen, so again, this person says, I'm going to go away, become better at debating, and I'm going to come back, look you up, phone you up, set up a meeting to continue this debate where we left off. Let's be generous and, and presume that to be true. It still doesn't make sense. Think of it this way. I'm going to use the metaphor of a tennis match. So the two parties in a debate are akin to two tennis players. And each one, when they're submitting an argument or a response to the other, they're akin to hitting the ball. So what one of the players is saying when they put forth this excuse, they're saying, well, this ball that's coming in from you, this shot, I want to pause the match here because I don't feel confident enough that I can hit it back well enough to you. So I'm going to pause the match here and I'm going to go and become a better tennis player. And then I'm going to come back and we'll resume the match. Do you see how this doesn't make any sense whatsoever? The way you play is by trying your best to give the best response you can, trying to hit the ball the best you can each time. But the line is drawn at stopping the match. If you have to stop the match to hit the ball better, that is like killing the patient in order to treat him better. That doesn't make any sense. The whole point is to have the conversation, is to play tennis. And incidentally, this is precisely how you get better at tennis. What are they going to do if they pause the match and leave? Are they going to sit in a void and meditate and become better at tennis? No, they would still have to play tennis in order to become better at tennis and then come back and continue the match. So, what's the point of stopping then? Why not just continue playing? Are they just going to go play with somebody else? Again, let's be generous, and this generosity kind of overflows into being gullible at this point. But let's just pretend that they really do want to become better. They're just going to go and debate with somebody else, right? Because you can't become better at debating without actually debating. I mean, you can read books and you can read the theory, but that's not going to make you a better debater. That is just going to provide you with some ideas, some information that you might then try to put into practice. It's like reading a book about tennis won't make you a better tennis player. You will have to practice it. So they're going to go and play tennis with somebody else so that they can then come back and play tennis with you. Why not just continue playing tennis with you? Do you see how this falls on its face? It's a self-defeating argument of I'm not good enough to express my ideas clearly enough so that I can quote unquote win this argument so that I can prove you wrong, so that I can do you the service of showing you where your subjective reality differs from objective reality to a significant degree. You are actually making a mistake. So what are you supposed to do then? Because I get this in conversations quite often, and last time I had it with my mother the other day. When she pulled this one, she loves to keep pulling this one, and I have to debunk it again and again. But to her credit, when I do debunk it, she agrees with it. So what are we supposed to do when we feel inadequate during a conversation? Well, like I said, try to hit the ball back the best you can, but do not stop the match. Try to respond to the best of your abilities. And if for some reason you feel that you are unable to represent your points, your arguments in the best light possible, you are doing an injustice to your own points and to your own arguments by not being able to clearly articulate them, then just concede for the moment. Because it is a very, very nasty move to say, I still think you're wrong, but I can't prove it to you. I can't argue it. I can't reason it to you because, you see, I'm not that good at communicating. In my heart, I know I'm right. Obviously, that is a whole bunch of horseshit. Again, why? Because if they know something to be true, here's here's the actual kicker. One cannot be convinced of an argument through reason if they cannot explain and argue that point to themselves first. So the question would be to the person who's saying, I know I'm right, I'm not good enough at debating to explain it to you. My question would be, how do you know you're right then? Are you sure you know you're right? Or do you just believe yourself to be right? Because they are not the same thing. Belief doesn't require proof. Actually, proof is anathema to belief. Just think about proof of God. Who would need to believe there's a God if there were actual physical evidence of God? Well, no one. No belief would be required. We would all know that God exists based on the evidence. So actually, when you get to the bottom of this, it's not even that they're running from any uncomfortable truth. It's they're running from the fact that they don't actually know why they hold that point of view, why they hold that conviction, why they hold that idea to be true. They'd like to think that it's because of reason, which they just happen to be unable to explain due to lack of language skills, rather than they hold that idea to be true because of belief, without any reason, without any arguments. So the actual fallacy is pretending that the truth value of a statement for them is based on reason, when in fact it isn't. So most of the time, when people stop a discussion, it's not because they can't articulate their thoughts properly. It's because they don't want to admit to themselves, first and foremost, that they don't have a good reason for holding that particular statement as true. I hope this helps, and I hope you can apply this in your own life. Any circumstances you find yourself in that match this scenario. And if you don't find yourself in this situation enough, it means you're just not talking to people enough, I think, which is one of the best things we could do to spread truth and philosophy and virtue is to talk to people. Just go out there, talk to people, have difficult conversations, have debates, friendly ones, and you'll see people pull this one way more often than you'd think. Have a good one. See you next time.